Hi Buddy Fighters, this is Nathan from Turn 1 Pass, and I'm here to give you a Laevateinn deck profile video. So, jumping right into it, this is of course a Legend World deck, and the main item is Demonic Descent Sword of the King, Laevateinn. It's a really unique item. It allows you to equip as many items as you want, and it's the only reason the deck works, of course. So we're going to jump right into it. So, of course, the main card in the deck and the buddy is Laevateinn itself, the OG. So Laevateinn says it can be your buddy. It costs 2 gauge, and you cannot have any monsters on your field. The card cannot be destroyed, and you can call as many items as you want, but no monsters. It's a 10,000 power, 2 critical, and it makes every other item that you call from your hand specifically gain an extra gauge cost. So its overkill is pay a gauge and discard a card from your hand during your turn at any point. You can even during attack phase. If you do that, you can mill the top 5 cards of your deck and equip up to 3 items from among them to your field. It's a really nice, aggressive overkill. It used to be the main one that you went to, and it's still pretty good, but it's not as good as it used to be because of the next card coming up. Next card is the Eroded Beast Sword of the King, Laevateinn Savage. So Laevateinn Savage is a really, really incredible card that when it first came out, I didn't give it anywhere near as many props as I really should have. So its equip cost says to discard a card from your hand when you have no monsters on field. At the start of every attack phase, it has a unique ability that allows you to equip an item from your drop zone by paying its equipped cost. This is really solid because you run a lot of cheap cost items that you're going to see coming up. And its overkill says during your main phase, you may discard a card from hand. If you do, search your deck for 2 items and equip them by paying their equip cost. So this is great because it's a good way to search out Laevateinn. It's a good way to search out any other item you need to at the time. And because its main ability that calls stuff from drop says at the start of your attack phase, it works really, really well with the impact. And we'll go through that in a little bit later on. It's another 10,000 power and 2 critical sword though. So coming up next is one of the one of the strongest swords in the deck and one of the most busted cards in the game, the Divine Demonic Sword of the King, Excalibur Replica. So Excalibur Replica is a 10,000 power, 2 critical sword that says you can only equip it if you have 10 or more heroes in drop. You have to discard a Sword of the King to equip it. However, it says when this card attacks alone, if you have 4 or more heroes on your field, your opponent cannot counter the attack whatsoever. It's got penetrate and double attack, so you're dealing usually 4 damage with it unless they rest it or destroy it. What's really cool about this is that you can piggyback off of the fact that your opponent cannot use counters and use a counter of your own, like going into a Trishula ability or something like that, which is really solid. This is kind of the game winner, and it's just a really overall great card. Next card we're going to go into is Fabricated Sword of the King, Daneslave Replica. I'm running it as a 2 of right now, 6,000 power, 1 critical. You have to pay a life to equip it. It's really solid though, because on monster destruction or on dealing damage, it gains you a gauge and 2 life. And then if you have 3 or more heroes on your field, you get to draw a card. This only activates once per turn, but if you have a couple of these on field, then odds are one of them's going to hit and you're going to get your gauge, your 2 life, which is insane, and a draw, which it's a lot in one card, and it's too good not to run. Next up is another 2 of in the deck, and I think one of our last 2 ofs as far as the items are concerned. It's the Sword of the King Scabbard, Sutir Cross. Sutir Cross says when this enters field, you may discard a card from hand. If you do, search your deck for any Sword of the King, add it to your hand, shuffle the deck. It's a 3,000 power, 1 critical. It's okay. It's really just there to guarantee that you hit the original Laevateinn or Laevateinn Savage. And later on in the game, just to hit whatever sword you need to from the deck if you need to tutor anything specifically. So the next ones we're going to start pushing a little faster because we have a bunch of 1-ofs. Fabricated Sword of the King, Zulfikar Replica. This card is really solid. It's a 6,000 power, 2 critical for 1 life. It says if another Sword of the King, aside from this, would leave the field, you can let this just put that away instead. Throw it to the drop zone. The other card stays on board, which is great. So if your opponent tries to bounce or get around Laevateinn at all, this will take the hit for it. It also says if you have 4 more heroes, this gets Penetrate. And Penetrate is really solid with a center heavy, as the current meta is, so it's incredibly helpful. The next card going in is Immortal Sword of the King, Durandal. Running it as a 1-of. It is a gauge and a life to equipped. 7,000 power, 2 critical. Counter speed. You can equip it from your hand by paying its call cost. It's got equipment change, but it's not really relevant. The main part of this that just makes it so good is it says that all heroes on your field cannot be destroyed by card effect. So it gives protection to pretty much all of your weapons, and I believe your set spell. Yeah, it really helps the set spell out. It just stops a lot of counter removal, which is something the deck could have had issues with if it hadn't been taken care of preemptively. Next is Fabricated Sword of the King, Fragarach Replica. So this is basically an Outlaw sword. It's 3,000 power, 2 criticals, costs a life to equip. When it swings at an opponent's monster, you can destroy that monster. However, when this card is discarded from your hand, you can pay a gauge and equip it just immediately, which is really good with as many cards that say discard this or discard that, like Laevateinn Savage or Yingolgard or even original Laevateinn. So next, we're going to do Khalid Bolg Replica. It's a 2,000 power, 2 critical, reduces all effect damage by 1, which is really strong in the Prism matchup. Nagelring Replica, 1,000 power, 2 criticals. That's another free sword, which is great. When it attacks, you gain a gauge. Helps with a lot of your gauge costs. Next is the Minius' Treasure Chamber, Room of the Sword of the King. Amazing. No power, no critical, but it doesn't matter. It makes it so none of the abilities of any of your heroes on field can be nullified, which is insane. It also says that all of your cards get an additional 1,000 power, which helps a ton when you take into account how low some of the powers can be. Lets you hit those defense. 1,000 power does a lot. The best part, though, is it says counter. Choose a hero on your field other than this card. You can rest this card and pay a gauge. If you do, stand at that card. It gives your Excaliburs another swing, gives your Nagelring another swing if you need another gauge, if you're going through the gauge really quickly, or you want to get a specific gauge in your drop zone to tutor later, it's great. Next, we're going to do Armus Replica. It's another free sword, 5,000 power, 1 critical. It's great because you can pop it yourself during attack on your opponent's turn and pay a life to just nullify the attack, which is great if you have no shields in hand. Next is the Unsigned Iron Sword Replica. 1,000 power, 1 critical, 3,000 defense. Incredible card. You finally get defense if your opponent is swinging for more than 10,000 power. Well, 10,000 power or more, gains 20,000 defense. It's insane. Helps against Aussie matchups, helps against some of the bots matchups. Really strong card. And if you have 4 or more items on the field, when this card swings, you can pop a card on your opponent's field. Pop a monster on your opponent's field, which is really helpful when you're going against decks that try to constantly replenish their board. The last sword of the deck, of course, is Trishula. Trishula is a unique card. Try not to pay its equip cost when using it. 7,000 power, 2 criticals. You have to place a card from your field in a drop zone and pay 2 gauge, which is really expensive. It's got natural double attack and a counter ability that says if you've attacked 3 or more times, once per turn, you can destroy a card on your opponent's field, including spells, monsters, items, whatever. And if you're at 4 or less life, stand it again. So it's basically got an inherent triple attack built in, which is really, really nice. So the next card is nothing new to anybody from the community who's ever played or seen Legend World. It's going to be All-Knowing Valkyrie Awadahl. When it's discarded, you gain a gauge, gain a gauge and draw a card. Its stats are completely irrelevant right now, but it's a 3/1/1. You're only going to be using this for discard fodder to further your resource game. Really strong. It also says if it's on field, your great spells can't be countered or nullified, but it doesn't matter for that. You can't call monsters in this deck. Going into spells quickly, we're running 3 Merlin's Advice. Merlin's Advice is an incredible card. It says you can only cast it if you have a hero on board. You look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You can put up to 1 hero from among them into your hand, 1 card into Gauge, and then the other card into Drop Zone. It lets you set up your Drop Zone really well for combos. It gives you defense, gives you items, another spell if you need it. It's just all around really strong. Almost every card in this deck, aside from the ones I'll mention coming up, are all hero attributes, so it's a great way to get the resources you need and to keep your Gauge strong. The next 3 of, ironically, is not a hero. It is one of the few cards in the deck that is not a hero. It's Yingleguard. It's amazing. It's one of the best draw engines in the game now, at least for Legend World. Cast cost is you discard a card from hand. If you do, draw 2 cards, once per turn. If you discard Awodal with this card, you draw 2, Gauge 1, draw another. It's an incredible card. It just opens up for too much resource gain, and I love it. Going back into our heroes, we have a new card called One Who Leads. You can only cast this if you have no monsters on your field. Pay a Gauge, pay life. It lets you equip up to 2 items from your drop zone without paying their equip cost. Gives you your Trishula, gives you your Excal replicas, gives you a Savage if you want it. Really incredible card. Sets up for a lot of plays. Gets your board where it needs to be for your OTKs and your just pushes in general. Next is the Infallible Blade Wall. This card is one of the few reasons the deck works as well as it does, thanks to Savage coming into play. This is a set spell. It says counteract, put a hero, monster, or item from field into drop zone and choose one of the following 2. Either draw a card, or the next time you would be dealt damage, it's reduced to 0. It's incredible. It makes it so when somebody attacks you, if they have a card that says it can't be nullified, you're not nullifying it, you're reducing it. It gives you your draw power when you want it, and Savage constantly refuels it every turn. Amazing card, great for defense, great for the deck. Next, we're going into Bloody Holy Grail. I'm running as a 3 of. You can only cast this if you're being attacked. Nullify the attack. If you have an item equipped, grab a hero from drop zone besides this card. Gives you your items, your spells, reuses Awodal, pretty much anything you need it to be. It just refills itself from hand and stops an attack. Can't ask for more than that. So we're going into another non-hero, Great Spell Widerstadt. It is the Legend World attack phase ender. Very heavily costed, 2 Gauge, 2 life. You can only cast it at the end of the first battle during your opponent's turn. Nullify the attack phase, or just not nullify it, but end it. It's really strong, helps you survive against Chaos and bots and any other rush deck. Those 2 are kind of getting knocked out of the meta a little bit, but we'll see. Next is going to be Heroic Tale, running it as a 2 of. This is your situational hyper energy. You can cast this if you have 2 or more heroes on field. If you do, the top 4 cards of your deck into your Gauge. It helps everything because it's a really Gauge heavy deck. And the last card of the deck is Taboo Savage Form. It is our impact. It is my 100% 4 of. I've loved this card since it came out. I had a lot of faith in it, and then it works like a dream with Savage. You can only cast this card if you have no monsters on your field, 3 Gauge, equipped up to 1 hero item from your deck without paying its equip cost, and you get another attack phase, so it procs Savage's call from the drop zone. You can get your Excaliburs, which is what you usually want to do. You can get Trishula if you need it. It finishes the game really well. You can cast multiples of these per turn thanks to the amount of Gauge XL, and overall it's just an incredible card. Alright, well, that's the deck. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions in the comment, or leave them in the comments section below. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks.